Look, I'm like a real YouTuber. I got a little mic and everything. So apparently you can make your own stencil stuff out of stuff you can get at the store, like deodorant and aloe vera. So let's try that. Before we get to the experiment, I'm going to talk about some of the research I did. I looked up several tattoo artists of the professional variety who have very valuable videos about comparing the different brands of Stencil Stuff. Highly suggest checking these videos out. Spoilers, it seems like the brand Nico Anchored is the best one. I haven't tried that one yet. We're going to be using Stencil Stuff today because it's what I already have. But next time when I get around to replacing this, I'll go with the brand that most of these videos recommend. What we're going to be doing today is looking at homemade. So here's the approximate ratio based off of what I've seen all over the internet. Just because that's not legible, I'll put it in the description as well, but it's 1 part hand sanitizer to 3 parts aloe vera to 3 parts speed stick deodorant, which is 2 deodorant sticks. You will need to melt them down. We will get there. I decided to check all the ingredients because I wanted to avoid any dyes or fragrances. We can't really avoid the fragrances, but when it comes to the hand sanitizer and the aloe vera, I decided to go without the dyes. Some online tutorials suggest getting an aloe vera with like a hand pump and then mixing all of your ingredients straight into there. I just couldn't find one because I shop at Target. And yeah, I don't know what any of these ingredients are. I forgot to film this. The star of the show, Speed Stick. This is apparently all you actually need, but we're gonna try mixing our own proper homemade DIY stencil stuff. By the way, that had fragrance in it anyways. We did our best. So here are our ingredients. I also would like to avoid all those additives, except for the ones in the Speed Stick. So I'm gonna replace some of the aloe vera with green soap, and I'm gonna replace the hand sanitizer with just straight up alcohol and see what happens. Now that we've got all our ingredients, what we need is a container that we're gonna mix everything in. I am being as cheap as possible, trying to keep this under $10, and so I decided to grab some empty glass containers, and I'm gonna boil them for 10 minutes for sanitation purposes. I don't know if I should suggest that to you, but I'm just gonna show you the process because that's what I decided to do. So I'm also gonna set up a double boiler in the trying to dirty as few pots as possible. These are just old containers from like some artichokes and some olives from my salads, and then I realized the double boiler is too small. So if you're ever gonna do this where you're boiling like jars, boil them for a minimum of 10 minutes. It's very exciting stuff, especially when it's, you know, a 90-degree October and it's already hot in the house all the time. Really love boiling things and not getting to eat anything afterwards. It's really great. I totally cut the part where I was struggling to get the glass jars out of the boiling water. You are welcome. I am Captain Awkward. Welcome to my channel. Setting up the double boiler, we're gonna melt down the deodorant. This is totally obvious to everyone else but me. My whole house smelled like Speed Stick after this. It was kind of weird. Remove all the little plastic bits that are stuck to the bottom because you don't want them to keep melting. And then pour them into our sanitary glass containers. Very scientific, literally just eyeballing it because all the tutorials online I saw just eyeballed it. They just said, you know, about a third, a whole hand sanitizer. And then what I also decided to do in my little experiment was, for whatever reason, poured a ton of green soap, thinking that I wanted the same volumetric amount, and it just stayed liquid because it's mostly green soap. So that didn't work out. But this is an experiment. That's what we do. We just try things. Also, shake it like it owes you money. I literally went and I watched sumo for a while and just shook it forever. Then I made my own flash. I could have just used old stuff, but instead I made something because I wanted varying levels of detail. And then I borrowed a better camera because the time-lapse camera I'm using is very old. I love it to death. It has served me well through this whole YouTube channel. But a friend that I went to Japan with has a proper vlogging camera, and so I'm gonna be borrowing that for the rest of the video because it's just way better quality. And decided to start all over again. I just didn't like the way I freeball mixed everything, so I went and I picked up all brand new materials. In addition, I grabbed a travel kit of little plastic containers. So this ended up being closer to $15 than $10, but whatever. Now it is time to make the carbon stencil itself. I have a relatively cheap stencil maker machine that I got to save myself time in my stick and poke leg project. I talk about that in other videos. One of these days though, I gotta replace it. That don't sound good. Get it together. Ah. I see the problem. Oh god. Okay. Well. How and why? How and why did that happen? Let's do this again. Honestly, I'd rather waste a few pieces of carbon paper than hand drawing my entire stencil like I used to do when I first started this project. Alright, take two. In general, I should be wearing gloves while I'm doing this, even though this won't be going on my skin directly in a permanent sense. It's just good to have good practices, so wear gloves if you're gonna do exactly what I'm doing here. Voila. The stencil is made. Now on to the next step, which is gonna be sanitizing the pieces of the travel kit that I picked up. Also sanitizing any other pieces that I'm gonna be using in this goopy mess that I make. Just clean everything a bunch, okay? Like with as hot a water as you can stand, and like rubbing alcohol, everything you can. I would have boiled these little plastic things, but I'm kind of worried that they were gonna melt. Gather together all of the ingredients for take 2 of making stencil stuff at home, and while everything sort of air dries a little bit, boil some water for tea, because that's a priority. Prep everything you can, and then take a mental health break with your tiny personal therapist. Just go lay on the floor and tell them all of your problems, because that's what they're there for. Yes. This cat's got to be in every video I make, so just deal with it. Isn't she cute? Isn't she cute? I just love her so much. She's my best friend. Okay, so I did another experiment where instead of boiling the deodorant and making my whole house smell like grandpa armpit. Oh god. It's like I've never opened a deodorant in my life. Maybe that's why I don't have friends. I decided to set up a makeshift double boiler. It's kind of a double warmer. As you can see from the following time lapse, I just set this up with some boiling water and nudged it every once in a while, and it did nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's fine. I didn't. Let's just go back over to the dirty ass stove that I need to fucking clean, and you can judge me if you want. I don't care. I just live here, okay? Set up a double boiler, or if you're a normal human being who has a microwave, just microwave it. Don't ask me why I don't have a microwave. My old 70s freaking house has like 4 whole electric plugs in it, and it makes my life easier to not have a microwave, okay? So we're gonna melt these guys, and now you get to see it in HD. Isn't that cool? Watch these guys melt. It's so stimulating, relaxing. I don't know what it is. It's also kind of weird. This is a weird thing that I'm doing. I hope my landlord doesn't watch this video. Forbidden Gatorade. Alright, after melting it down and getting rid of those little plastic bit things, we are going to be a little bit more precise. Here we go. Okay, so I want approximately 3 ounces, which is that 2? Okay. Okay, so we want to go up to about 6. 4, 5, and 6. And 1 whole hand sanitizer. Oh god, it's solidifying already. Oh god. Yeah, it really surprised me for some reason that the Aloe Vera brought the temperature of the melted speed stick down, and then it became solid. So I used this setup from before to melt it back down. Thanks, Pass Elf. Well, gonna hope for the best. And into this guy. And she's full. I'm gonna switch up the lids because of who I am as a person. I end up pouring the leftover stuff into an Old Spice container, which I did not sanitize, but I've just made a mental note that that's just like for practice stuff, if I choose to use it. In the momento. El Greeny. And El Stingy. Whoa! El Stingy. Show me the way to the kitchen. I forgot. Gonna do a similar experiment as to last time, just gonna use considerably less green soap. I'm gonna regret this. Totally forgot to make sure that this was in the shot, but I'm using approximately a cap of rubbing alcohol and, I don't know, a cap and a half to 2 caps worth of green soap. This is a really stupid idea. All of my ideas are stupid ideas. And that's okay, because humans are stupid. I can't not make a mess. I just need way too much space and to make a big ol' mess, but I try to clean up as I go, so it all comes out in the wash, as it were. Shake everything up and clean everything up and just throw this towel into the laundry because, yeah. So we gotta let those solidify overnight. And when it comes to the actual experiment, I'm also going to be referencing those various professional videos on the actual brand Stencil Stuff. And it's pretty straightforward. Just try to wipe an equal amount of times on each of them. But everybody did something a little bit different. Like Art Something did a dry wipe first. I don't really know why though, so I skipped it. Broken Puppet was very thorough and did like exactly 50 wipes. So I just tried to treat them all the same, but I didn't bother counting or anything like that. If you have a suggestion for doing a more scientific test on how to wipe these evenly or anything, I'm totally up for suggestions because I kind of think I'm going to do this again in the future and try to perfect my own ratio. Uh-oh. Oh, that's very solid. Yeah, so putting in as much green soap as Speed Stick did not do me any favors, and putting in a very small amount of green soap just led to deodorant in a squeeze bottle, which was not clever of me. We're gonna work on that in the future. Also, just to be safe, like a true scientist, we are gonna label all of our different experiments and make notes about that just in case I forget which is which. Based off the consistency, it is pretty apparent which is which, but you know, might as well write it down for future posterity's sake. Now we're gonna prep the leg. I will be putting gloves on at this point because when it comes to applying the actual stencil material, I don't want it to get absorbed into my hand. I want this to be as accurate as possible. Clean the whole leg like I would, get any oils out of the skin, shave all the hair down so that the carbon paper can make direct contact and not be like floating up due to the hair. And then what we're also gonna do is put our stencils down and we're gonna mark the area that we need just so that I don't have any of the stencil material overlapping. I swear I can see it. It was with a very light gray pen and I'm very pale, so it barely shows. I realized I didn't shave high enough, so then I had to start over, but on the top half of my thigh, we're gonna be doing the brand name Stencil Stuff. It has a really nice consistency. I like to apply 2 coats of it because I think that's what something Art said in one of his videos. Oh, you're very liquidy. Okay. It is possible that since this got separated into 2 containers that all of the liquid was on top, this maybe should have all been in one container that could have been shaken up more thoroughly, but this was super liquidy and really hard to work with. Didn't like it very much. Oh, that doesn't look good. It all started bleeding immediately and I lost a bunch of detail, or at least some detail. Maybe not a bunch, but some. This is so solid. So I used that popsicle stick to just scrape out a tiny amount and then my body heat to sort of melt it. This is basically like what it would be like if you had just taken the deodorant stick itself and just applied it. In theory, you could do that. Don't do that, but you could. Oh, that's a lot of bleed. Okay, so this is crazy. I don't want to get gunk on the camera. Look at how much liquid absorbed. So while the Mads Mix Speed Stick was a little bit easier to apply, we still had a lot of those details bleed together, and it's not as clear to read as the brand name Stencil Stuff was. It also just really grosses me out how that carbon paper looks like like the wrapping paper on the bottom of some French fries or something. Like, it's really wet. Needlessly wet. For how solid that material was, it's very wet. I think it's probably more difficult to apply evenly when you're using a just straight speed stick. But it could be something that you could get used to and learn over time. Hi, Aki. Do you want to be in this video? Your face is in it, but now your voice is in it too. Thank you for that. The cat says hello, everyone. That was the comparison. On the little clouds, you could see that there was a lot of bleed and loss of detail. All right, gonna give this 10 minutes to air dry. All right, as any attention deficit person does, it is time to caffeinate. This is earlier in the day, so I can do full-fledged coffee, unlike after the sun goes down when you only drink the tea. So this is what I did for approximately 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Stencil Stuff should always sit for a little while. Look at my mug. It's got cats. Isn't that cute? I like it because I hold mugs left-handed and I get to see a little rat. Ooh. All right, we're back. Now it is time to do the actual wiping experiment. Extremely visually stimulating. I set up the really good camera and I put it on the what I thought was time-lapse mode, but it was actually like a hyper-lapse mode, and it's such like high-def footage that it doesn't even want to export with the rest of this video correctly, which is hilarious, and I just don't have the mental spoons to figure it out right now. So thank the gods that I set up this secondary camera, and you can see how exciting it is for me to wipe my leg. Here's kind of what it looked like from the other angle. Ooh. Anyways, we wiped about the same amount of times. We already talked about this. Okay, this is actually crazy. I can't believe how much darker the basically straight deodorant is. The Stencil Stuff has faded, but it had the best details. You can still see some of this. I can't believe that. Honestly, the next day, the straight speed stick, number C, letter C, whatever it is, was still there, whereas like the Stencil Stuff was totally gone. So weirdly, it works really well in a way. I find this very hard to believe. I am very surprised. I need more paper towels. This is silly. Alright, let's really give it a good scrub. A good scrubbing. Ooh. At first I had tried to wipe as authentically to tattooing, like if it was a raw tattoo under there, that's how I wiped. But this time I'm just like scrubbing it, just trying to get it off. I can't believe how dark that is. This is bonkers. No, this is Patrick. Okay. I even did sort of a soak where I just as fully saturated a paper towel as I could, and let my green soap solution that I would use during actual tattooing just sort of sit on it for a minute, and then tried to wipe it off. And yeah, just the straight deodorant was staying really well.
I can't believe that.
Now, one factor could be that I already know how to apply Stencil Stuff, and maybe just because I've done it 100 times, the brand name stuff is more natural to me and I know how to get a thinner coat of it. And maybe if I had always used Speed Stick, I would have been a little bit more diligent by having an even coat, and we might have retained a lot of those details that we lost in the bleed. Maybe because I applied it with that popsicle stick, it went on really thick and everything kind of lost all those little tiny details. So depending on how complex the tattoo you're going to be putting down is, this method might work for you, especially if you are having financial limitations, or if you just don't have access to ordering tattoo material.
Wow, okay. So what did we learn? You can, in fact, just use Speed Stick if you wanna. I don't think you should if there's a lot of detail in the tattoo, but if you're just doing a really simple image, like, yeah, that'll actually work pretty well. And if you happen to be working on someone that's like got really greasy skin or something and you're worried about losing the stencil in the weirdest way, Speed Stick will seemingly last longer. I was not expecting that at all. I feel like this deserves more testing. I'm still, for the price point, going to vote that you just get a container of the actual brand name Stencil Stuff. You will keep more of the detail, and it was a lot easier to use. You just kind of rub it in, whereas, you know, the suggested mix was very watery, and then the Speed Stick I had to like melt down. It's not super sanitary to just rub a deodorant stick on someone's skin and then move on to someone else. But, you know, so yeah, thank you for checking out this experiment. Good luck with whatever you're gonna do with this information. Bye.